make the mistake of feeding algae pellets to my snails, with the results that they spend less time crawling over the water plants, which become bearded with colonial protozoa. No one else ever kissed Blake's bell handle before venturing to pull it. Spike and Daphnia population as the first generation gives birth. Freshwater shrimp go completely nuts. I am very sensible how ill this piece represents the life, for if no copy is ever so good as the original, as the divine Cowley himself says, how imperfectly must the greatest master perhaps that the world ever knew, Virgil excepted, be copied by the pencil of a dauber. So fond of invertebrates, I consider removing the spine from my goldfish. Tommy Cooper was one of the few artists to be really able to have a rapport with himself, brackets Russ Abbott, close brackets. Sick-looking ramshorn sits on glass for 10 minutes, pumping its shell up and down, then twists its head round to rest on the rear of its foot, passing an inch-long turd. By removing a chunk of skull, including the inner ear from a human cadaver, and attaching a stylus to the moving parts of the ear, he was able to use this biomechanical device to make a recording of the sounds that entered a recording horn. Or maybe it's the stinging cells of the hydra, which are keeping the snails off the water plants. I am standing in my living room, and I am confusing everything with everything else, while at the same time confusing the concepts of confusion, of thing, and of comparison with everything else. Unidentified lump of jelly on glass, mistaken for freshwater mussel larvae, disappears overnight. Memories certainly, but distorted like fossils, enfolded in metamorphosed strata, the experiences of a baby projected onto the body and mind of an adult. Juvenile pond snail has a mouth like Popeye. Euthanasia by the back door. Hydra with 3-inch long tentacles. If you see Bernie Winters, don't go to him. Ramshorn crawls up plant as far as Hydra colony, then crawls rapidly back down again. Short savages, obsessed Blair. Leech inches across the glass, but which end is the mouth? Dobupal retard, 225 milligram. Freshwater shrimp grooms its whiskers like a cat. At my time of life, 36 years of age, it cannot be supposed that I have much energy to spare. In fact, I find it all little enough for the intellectual labours I have in my hands, and therefore let no man expect to frighten me by a few hard words into embarking any part of it upon desperate adventures of morality. Lesser water boatman, 3 millimetres long, holds a bubble of air in its back, fighting its way against the buoyancy to the bottom of the tank, where it stops to feed, then extends its legs stiffly to float to the top of the tank, where it makes the briefest possible contact with the surface film before fighting its way back down again. The younger thirst for adventure was quenched by rapid degrees, as I found it possible to ascend Chimborazo with Humboldt lying on a sofa, or chase hartebeests with Cumming over muffins and coffee. Rub away the membrane from some eggshell, crush the shell, and add it to the invertebrate tank as a probably unusable source of calcium. The rolling pin jobby is expressive. What I took for a mussel larva is a small ovoid crustacean, a cupris. Then standing against the other false father figure, Charles Olson, patiently revealing the triple homicide of his own father through denying him luggage and killing him via heart attack, then killing his institution via neglect, and finally killing his wife with neglect. Smallest flatworm in tank has so many eyes that I experience a rare failure of identification. The Tibetan word is wanker, with wang score. Wang is something like power. Spend an hour with jeweller's glass, watching the hearts beating inside the transparent shells of baby ramshorns. 2 pink balloons arranged as an hourglass, one contracting as the other engorges, a dark line marking the join. Rotting Ariocarpus filled with a red liquid smelling of hot dogs. Post-colonial protozoa. The reason why I am contacting you is because I did some research and found http://www.manson88.freeserve.co.uk in Lycos on page 47 for the search term ladybug teapot. Snails hitching rides on the shells of other snails without regard to species. Bubber hutching on the sosh. Film of air on back of lesser water boatman is buoyant enough to lift to the surface both the insect and the fragment of weed it clings to. When asked to produce a definition of art, Allen Ginsberg said, "It is news that stays news." Attempt to look at a small flatworm through a microscope, lightly resting a cover slip on the worm to constrain its movement, works fine until I switch to the most powerful objective and bring the lens down too far. No animal ever so completely annihilated. It has become so much a habit with me to draw female buttocks onto my body, only swanky mally pons, that I do it almost involuntarily every time I stoop. Great pond snail rears in its tail on the back of a ram's horn, striking cabaret Voltaire stances till it comes within reach of a second ram's horn, an inch away, attaches its head to the shell, and makes the leap. Britney Spears' topless video suicide, good but no nipples. Small black flatworm is partly sucked into the mouth of a great pond snail, which draws its head back into its shell and twists itself almost inside out in what I read as disgust, the flatworm making its escape. Fry, a study of adolescents' use of embalming fluid with marijuana and tobacco. 4 elliptical Pac-Man shapes, the mouths pointing inward to a single focus, the only details visible in the grey watery smudge of crushed flatworm. You have a face like the man from the advert for depression. Catatonic friezes of lesser water boatmen. A pencil drawing of me at the age of perhaps 6 months, drawn by my father, making me look several years older. The caption, P. Manson, estimate continued, printed upside down at the bottom of the page. 5 baby ram's horns in a row on the glass, some heading up, others down. I spend 10 minutes watching and repeating the implied musical phrases, then go out. Thank you.
Yeah.